And you don't need me. The evidence you want is aboard Rampart's ship. Check the bridge's command log. I saved a backup to the central system.
Years ago, I prayed for a day when we'd receive a series dedicated to the clones, and I often wondered what that would look like, and what it could deal with about the future of the most beloved army in the galaxy far, far away. And of all the ways that I wanted it to go down and the ways that I theorised it in my mind, I never could have anticipated how much of an emotional rollercoaster it would have actually become, particularly in just 2 episodes. The deceptive plays, subtle callbacks, motions for the future, and desperate moves for what remains of a beautiful period from the 2010s, and honestly a game-changing series in storytelling for Star Wars that had me hooked from the movie at the very beginning, truly feels like it's coming to a close. When we look to the not too distant future, I'm left wondering now, if this is the moves that they've made towards the future of the clone army, how much longevity does this show have?
I don't like where this is going.
Is this actually a limited series, but they just don't want to slap a label on it just yet until they figured out where they want to go with it? Or do they already have an end goal in mind? A question for another time, I guess, but with the drastic moves like this, you've got to start wondering where this is all headed. The emotional weight and gravitas that comes with these 2 entries left me with feelings that I'm struggling to put into words, but I can assure you there's a great deal of catharsis I'm getting from watching this, and it's episodes like these that I'm truly grateful for the show, and that Filoni's dream got to continue. His writing staff has given us a lot to mull over in just this first half of season 2, and if this is just what the first 8 episodes have given us, prepare for something fucking awesome in the remaining 8. Anyway, I'll be breaking this 2-parter down into 2 videos, so you'll have a little more to fill out your day for sure. Let's get into the breakdown and I'll let you know what I think at the end. We open on the dusk, settling across Coruscant as we're greeted with a returning location at the Clone Bar 79s, where we catch wind of a discussion between 2 troopers named Slip and Cade, who are in a heated talks over Rampart's actions against the clones in their former home of Kamino. Cade confesses that he put out a threat towards Rampart, wherein if he doesn't deliver the truth to the Senate to stop clones being phased out, he'll go public with the information that he has, as it's revealed that Cade and Slip were both officials operating the cruiser in the fall of Tipoca City. As they leave the bar, Cade is taken out by a sniper, and Slip manages to do what his name says on the tin and gets away very quickly. After this, we cut to the hearing in the Senate building where the senators are discussing the proposed bill to implement the conscription soldiers that will bring about the end of the clones and the beginning of the stormtroopers. As we see a slew of returning assholes from a lot of the Senate-based episodes in the Clone Wars, we're also greeted by the returning presence of Bail Organa and Senator Ryo Chuchi.
Nice.
Bail calls into question the true purpose of this bill and wonders why the Emperor is not at these proceedings given the high stakes involved with such a decision. Masamada delivers the "he knows that you'll make the right decision for the galaxy" wink wink speech, when Senator Chuchi chimes in with a demand to know what will become of the clones once this is implemented. Many of the assholes there believe that due to the clones' accelerated aging, they should just simply be decommissioned.
Excuse me, what?
Chuchi states that they're living beings, not droids, and that they deserve a buttload of respect given the sacrifices they made for the galaxy throughout the war. Admiral Rampart steps in to assure the delegation that the provisions are in place to assist the clones beyond the phasing. Dissatisfied with this response, Rampart then proposes discussing the adjustments that Chuchi and the clones would like, and what they feel would be best appropriate going forward after the conscription phase has begun. Ameda informs Rampart after these proceedings that if the bill does not get into motion, it will be Rampart's head on the table, not his. A little while later, Chuchi has gone to discuss matters with the troops at the 79s, where we see an assortment of troopers with varying ages to them and visible trauma on their faces in the case of one clone pulling off his best Droll impression. Chuchi assures them that this is the best step forward for a stable future for them now, but some of them are dismissive of this idea, feeling that their true purpose is on the battlefield and adhering to their programming is all they've ever known. Chuchi convinces them to talk, and a little while later as she's leaving, Slip returns and approaches her to inform her of what transpired, and that every trooper who's tried to speak up against this has either been reassigned, missing, or dead. He tells her that there's a backup data log that'll expose Rampart's crimes, but it's on his personal cruiser. After this, Chuchi approaches Rampart about a retirement bill for the clones and wants to know why he didn't follow the destruction of Kamino if it truly was a storm. He feeds her some bullshit about how he was off-world, and she doesn't believe him at all. A little while after this, Bale arranges to meet with her in the underworld and informs her to look beyond what Rampart is saying, question the fact that the rights of the clones are part of a larger picture in all this, and question how a catastrophic storm wiped out Tapoka City, a facility built to withstand such natural disasters, suddenly falls, and then the Empire's new army is proposed.
Oh, how convenient!
We cut to Rampart demanding his assassin take out Chuchi as well as Slip, and as he's sent off to do this, Chuchi finds Slip in the underworld who's waiting in evac. But she tries to appeal to his better nature in this moment and asks that he offer his voice in the Senate. He tries to pass her off and asks that they both get to safety, but sadly gets taken out by the assassin who kills both her guards as well.
God fucking damn it!
As she's chased down into the inner industrial area of Coruscant, she's about to be killed when Rex comes to her rescue. They capture the assassin and take him back to Trace and Rafa's loading bay in the underworld, where they discover the assassin is in fact a clone, but Rex says that there's something off about him. As they begin to question the trooper, he commits a degree of self-harm that he won't come back from, and we end on Chuchi and Rex left concerned for what's next. Now, I can already hear the choir of people bitching about how there was no Bad Batch in another episode for a series that's called The Bad Batch, but you have to look at the bigger picture. This episode was about the Bad Batch and the clones in general. The future of these men was always a question on my mind since Order 66, way back in 2006 when I first watched Revenge of the Sith. There have been many novelizations and comics and Legends material over the years that have provided insights into what became of much of the clone army, and the general consensus is that they were early stormtroopers but steadily got killed off. For me, that isn't a good enough answer, and given how Filoni and co have presented the clones over the years, they deserve a far greater chance at life than what Legends materials depicted they receive. I truly wanted a show for the longest time that would explore these little intricacies about certain troopers, and a show that gives us their perspectives, thoughts and feelings and adds emotional nuances to the faceless, nameless CGI army of the prequels. The Clone Wars did a solid job at humanizing them, and I wanted to learn a lot more from them post Order 66, and thank fuck that this show is around. A lot of people are quick to dismiss the Disney era of Star Wars, and I can't say I blame them in some ways, but as far as I'm concerned, the animated products have rarely ever made any missteps. They've been pretty much consistent, enjoyable, and informative pieces of content to the biggest black spot in the lore's timeline right now, with additions from the likes of Fallen Order, Kenobi, Andor, and Rebels. This was the type of storytelling I feel a lot of people have been chasing when it came to this series, and you'll undoubtedly have those groups that just wish to be perpetually bitter about everything. But this is peak storytelling about such a niche topic that deserves the limelight. And it's not just about the clones either. Season 1 delved into the early stages of stormtroopers being designated as TKs and being trained by Republic commandos, so Palps was already confident that this motion would pass through government, that he's already implemented the changes. We caught wind of this concern back in episode 3 in passing between two clones sat next to Crosshair, but this certainly fucking delivered on it. The strength in this episode pertained to both the characters and the wider narrative working truly in tandem with each other, and it was allowed to breathe. The focus was on one thread and we followed it through. No deviating, no distractions, just sit down and watch how this plays out. The overarching story of the direction of the clones will remain a factor in the series at least until the end of season 2, I'd imagine. But going forward, the question will be, what becomes of them next? The clone uprising is something I've been talking about in almost every episode so far this season, and with how this duology has ended, it's surely headed that way. It's something that I don't think everybody will pick up on, and I might be incorrect in saying that all of them were, but to remove the helmets of pretty much every trooper does a really good job of humanizing the troops in the eyes of everyone who is prepared to villainize them at this point in the timeline, as you're reminded that they are human under there and possess their own sentience and deserve a new chance at life. They are just as much victims in this as the Jedi were, let's remember. Politicians saw them as nothing more as an asset to the war, but that is far from the truth. To see a character like Chuchi step into the shoes of Padme in this instance as well, and take a moral stance against the political agendas being waved around in the room, was a stark reminder of the goodness that people do want to enact for the galaxy, and the clones are just a bigger part of that. The pushback over the support for the troops as well informs us of the rising tensions that Mothma was talking about in Andor, and by the end of this, we see how much influence Palpatine really has over them. Much like Cad Bane and Cut Lawquane, we haven't seen Chuchi in a little over 10 years on screen, and she was a positive influence then, so I like bringing her back now, certainly to fill the void for Padme in this moment, and it was a perfect use for her character and a welcomed return which I hopefully will see more of in the future. The political game of chess that Rampart is playing is something I recently discussed in my Ryloth arc reviews for season 1 of Bad Batch, where I pointed out he's a calculated, cerebral assassin who, like Bale said, knows what to say and how to say it. He's clearly acting as a voice for Palpatine and to push his desires at least, but this true believer mentality has rewarded him up to now, but the pushback from the clones is something he couldn't have accounted for, and is becoming more and more evident by the day. Palpatine is certainly losing patience with him, and he's using Masameda to get that point across, as we start to see him steadily unravel and become desperate, even wiping a trooper's memory and setting them up as their own assassin. It's a dirty tactic, but one that I would have expected him to take, to be honest. To see Rex return to our screens is always a delight, but it's a big shift in his appearance here from where we last left him, though I'm interested to see what becomes of him going forward and how he winds up as he is in Rebels. The wise man archetype that he's steadily starting to fill out is an excellent way to subtly shift into the man he'll grow to become, and I'm excited to see what else they continue to do with him in the future. The visuals for this episode cannot be understated. Everything looked lived in, populated, the environments were reflective of what we understood them to be in live action, and truly, this is the pinnacle of Star Wars animation right now, and you cannot deny how impressive it's grown to become. In addition to this, the motifs and musical callbacks were profound and gave me goosebumps at times. I do have a concern that this will become an underrated one simply because it didn't have the Batchers or Crosshair in it, who surprisingly hasn't been in anything else but one episode in this season so far, or for the simple fact that this episode wasn't overtly heavy on the action. And if that is your argument for why this one sucked, I'm disappointed, as there's so much to appreciate with this thematically, contextually, and emotionally for any investment people may have, particularly if you've been keeping up with Star Wars over the years. With all that said, that's all I've got for you for now. Please do check out part 2 whenever that goes up, and leave a like on this video and subscribe for more in the future. Until then though, everybody, take care, and may the Force be with you all.